My stepmother always bragged about how her natural children were smarter than me, so I humbled her in the most satisfying way. I was 10 when Dad married Veronica, a woman who made it her life's mission to remind me I wasn't really part of the family. My children have my genes, she'd say at every family dinner, tapping her temple like she was sharing some profound scientific truth. It's just biology. Her twins, Preston and Whitney, were decent kids. But according to Veronica, they were destined for greatness while I was destined for mediocrity. She'd enrolled them in advanced everything: gifted programs, private tutors, specialized sports camps. Meanwhile, she convinced Dad I'd do better at the regular public school. "We don't want to set unrealistic expectations," she explained, while cutting my academic enrichment budget to fund Preston's robotics team. "Some children just aren't built for pressure." By 8th grade, the comparisons became suffocating. "Preston won the science fair again," she'd announce at dinner, beaming. "Whitney made all-state orchestra. What did you do today?" I'd mumble something about a B+ on my English essay. "That's nice," she'd say with that pitying smile. "At least you're trying your best." Dad would squeeze my hand under the table but never challenged her. He'd chosen peace over protecting me. The breaking point came junior year. I'd secretly applied to the state's most competitive STEM program, a summer intensive that accepted only 50 students statewide. When the acceptance letter arrived, I hid it in my room. Veronica found it while organizing my space. That night at dinner, she waved it around like evidence of a crime. "This is embarrassing," she said. "You'll be competing against kids like Preston and Whitney. You'll fail publicly." Something inside me snapped. "I got in on merit," I said quietly. "The same way they would." She laughed. Actually laughed. "Sweetheart, they don't need programs like this. They already have private opportunities. This is for kids who need extra help." I looked at Dad. He stared at his plate, silent as always. That summer, I attended the program. I worked harder than I'd ever worked in my life. Every equation I solved, every lab I aced, I thought about Veronica's face when she called me mediocre. The final project was a regional competition. Top 3 winners received full scholarships to a prestigious tech university. I placed first. The local news covered it. My photo appeared in the paper. The scholarship was worth $250,000. When I came home, Veronica's smile was plastic. "How wonderful," she said through gritted teeth. Though Preston could have won if he'd had time to enter. But something shifted. Her colleagues had seen the article. Her book club friends congratulated her on having such an accomplished stepdaughter. She couldn't erase me anymore. Senior year, college acceptance letters arrived. I'd applied to 8 schools. All reaches, all prestigious. 7 acceptances. Preston and Whitney each got into 3 good state schools. Respectable, but not exceptional. The night before my graduation, Veronica cornered me in the kitchen. "You know this doesn't change anything," she whispered. "You're still not really ours." I smiled, the same pitying smile she'd given me for years. "You're right," I said. "I'm not, but I never needed to be." The next morning, Dad asked to speak with me privately. His hands shook as he held an envelope, old, yellowed at the edges, like it had been hidden for years. "I need to tell you something about your mother," he said, his voice breaking. "About who she really was. Veronica doesn't know. No one does. But you deserve the truth before you leave." He opened the envelope and pulled out a photograph I'd never seen before. My heart stopped. The woman staring back at me wore a lab coat. Behind her stood a wall of awards and patents. "Your mother," Dad whispered, tears streaming down his face, "founded the very program you just conquered." I couldn't breathe. The photograph trembled in my hands. My mother, the woman I barely remembered, whose memory Veronica had systematically erased from our home, stood confident and brilliant in that lab coat. Her eyes, the same shade as mine, held an intelligence I'd only seen reflected in my own mirror when I solved impossible equations. "What?" The word came out strangled. Dad's shoulders shook as 15 years of buried truth finally surfaced. "Dr. Catherine Rivera," he said. "Your mother was one of the most brilliant minds in computational biology. She developed half the curriculum you just completed. The program directors never told you because I asked them not to." He pulled out more documents. Patents with her name, published papers in journals I'd studied from, letters of recommendation she'd written for students who'd gone on to change the world. And there, at the bottom of the pile, was the program's original charter, founded by Dr. Catherine Rivera, in the hope that brilliant young minds might find their wings. My legs gave out. I sat hard on my childhood bed, surrounded by participation trophies Veronica had insisted on displaying, her subtle way of showcasing my adequate achievements next to Preston and Whitney's awards. "Why?" I whispered. "Why would you hide this from me?" Dad's face crumpled. "When your mother died in that lab accident, I was destroyed. Veronica was there. She worked in HR at the university. She helped me through it, helped me plan the funeral, took care of you when I couldn't function. I thought I was being practical, moving on, building a new family." He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "But Veronica couldn't handle your mother's shadow. Every time you showed interest in science, every time you asked about her, Veronica would spiral. She convinced me that hiding your mother's legacy was protecting you from pressure and expectation, that you deserved a normal childhood, not the weight of living up to a genius." I stared at him, years of manipulation crystallizing into focus. "So you let her make me feel stupid," I said quietly. "You let her convince me I was ordinary. You watched her cut my opportunities while she poured everything into her children, because it was easier than dealing with her insecurity." "I was weak," he admitted. "I chose the path of least resistance. I told myself you were resilient enough to overcome it, that you'd be fine. But watching you win that competition, seeing you smile for the first time in years, I realized what I'd stolen from you." My hands clenched around the photograph. "Does Veronica know about any of this?" He shook his head. "She knows your mother worked at the university. but she thinks she was just a lab tech. I never corrected her. The bedroom door burst open. Veronica stood there, her face twisted with rage, holding her phone. The university just called, she spat. They want to do a feature on you, about how you're following in your mother's footsteps. They mentioned her name, Dr. Catherine Rivera. Her voice dripped with venom on the title. They want to give you her old lab as a scholarship recipient. They called her a pioneer. I stood slowly, something ancient and powerful uncurling in my chest. She was a pioneer, I said. She founded the program that just offered me a full scholarship. The program you said was for kids who needed extra help. Veronica's laugh was sharp and brittle. Your mother was a fraud. Everyone knew it. She slept her way into that position, published other people's work under her name. The only reason that program exists is because she died before they could fire her and the university didn't want the scandal. Dad's face went white. That's not true. Catherine was— Shut up, Veronica snapped. I worked in that department. I saw the emails, the complaints. She was going to be exposed. I felt something cold settle over me, the same calculating calm I felt when solving complex equations. Prove it, I said. Veronica blinked. What? Prove it. Show me these emails, these complaints. Because I'm about to accept that scholarship, and I'm going to ask the university to open their archives about my mother's work. Every patent, every paper, every peer review. If she was a fraud, it'll be there. I stepped closer. But if she wasn't, if you've been lying to make yourself feel better about your own mediocrity, then everyone will know. Your book club friends, your colleagues, Preston and Whitney. Everyone will know you spent years tearing down a dead woman because you couldn't handle that she was brilliant. Veronica's face cycled through emotions, rage, fear, calculation. You wouldn't dare. Your father's reputation. My father, I interrupted, stayed silent while you destroyed me. I don't owe him anything. Dad flinched like I'd struck him. I'll make you a deal, I continued. You admit right now that you lied, that you have no proof my mother was anything but legitimate, that you've been threatened by a ghost for 15 years, and I'll keep it between us. Veronica's hands clenched into fists. Or, I said softly, I make some calls. I've got the director of that program on speed dial now. He knew my mother, worked with her. I'm sure he'd love to hear your theories. The silence stretched. Finally, Veronica's shoulders sagged. I don't have proof, she whispered. I made it up. I couldn't stand that she was everything I wasn't, that you might be like her. The admission hung in the air like poison gas. Dad made a sound like a wounded animal. Get out, he said. Veronica's head snapped up. What? Get out of her room. Get out of this conversation. I need to talk to my daughter alone. For the first time in 8 years, my father chose me. Veronica fled, her footsteps echoing down the hallway. Dad and I stood in the wreckage of too many wasted years. I'm sorry, he said. I'm so sorry. I don't expect forgiveness. But I need you to know, your mother would be so proud of you. Not because you won, because you stayed brilliant despite everyone trying to convince you otherwise. I looked at the photograph again, at my mother's confident smile. I want all of it, I said. Every document, every photo, every piece of her you hid from me. I want her patents framed. I want her publications on the bookshelf. I want her to exist in this house again. Yes, Dad said immediately. Anything. And I want Veronica gone. He closed his eyes. I know, she will be. Not eventually. Now. Tonight. Tomorrow at the latest. Because if she's still here when I come home from graduation, I'm leaving and never coming back. Dad nodded, tears streaming down his face. I'll take care of it. I walked past him, photograph clutched to my chest, and found Preston and Whitney sitting on the stairs. They'd heard everything. Is it true? Whitney asked, her voice small. About your mom? Yes. Preston looked sick. Our mom lied to us. She told us that you weren't as smart because— I know what she told you, I said. They exchanged glances. We're sorry, Whitney said. We should have questioned it. Should have wondered why you always seemed to understand things faster than us, even when you weren't in advanced classes. You were kids, I said. So was I. We all were. Can we— Preston started, then stopped. Can we still be family, even after everything? I looked at them, really looked. They were just kids who'd been raised by a woman who weaponized their achievements, who'd been taught their worth came from being better than someone else. That depends, I said, on whether you want a sister, or if you want what your mother wanted, competitors. Sister, Whitney said immediately. We want a sister. Preston nodded. Then yeah, I said, we can be family. Graduation came the next morning. I walked across that stage with 7 acceptance letters in my bag and my mother's photograph in my pocket. Veronica wasn't there. Dad had taken her to a hotel the night before, helped her pack, and told her the marriage was over. She'd screamed, threatened lawyers, promised to take everything, but Dad had documentation. Years of her financial manipulation, cutting my education budget while maximizing her children's. The emails where she'd explicitly told teachers I was less capable. Her own words in writing, undermining me at every turn. She'd signed the divorce papers by noon. The university's feature about me ran 3 weeks later. It covered my mother's legacy, my scholarship, and my plans for the future. They'd found colleagues of hers who shared stories. Her brilliance, her kindness, her vision for making STEM accessible to all talented students, regardless of background. One professor was quoted, "Catherine believed that genius appears in unexpected places if we're willing to look. She built this program to find those hidden brilliant minds." It's poetic that her own daughter embodied everything she believed in. Veronica's book club friends sent flowers with apologetic notes. Her former colleagues from the university sent emails asking if the things they'd heard about her treatment of me were true. Her world, built on the appearance of perfection and genetic superiority, collapsed. Preston called me the night the article published. "Mom's staying with Aunt Cecilia," he said. "She's furious about the article. says you made her look like a monster. I didn't make her anything, I said. I just told the truth. I know. I thought you should know she's planning something. She keeps talking about how she won't let you destroy her reputation. Thanks for the warning. Are you scared? I thought about my mother, building a program that would outlive her, creating opportunities for students she'd never meet, leaving a legacy that her own daughter would one day inherit without even knowing it. No, I said. I'm not scared at all. Veronica's revenge came in the form of a lawsuit. She filed for defamation, claiming I'd intentionally painted her as abusive in the article. Her lawyers argued that my success proved she'd been an adequate parent, that any claims of mistreatment were exaggerated for publicity. I hired a lawyer with part of my scholarship fund. Discovery was brutal, as we subpoenaed everything: school records showing how my enrichment programs were cut, financial documents proving the disparity in spending between me and the twins, emails from Veronica to teachers undermining my abilities. The most damning evidence came from Whitney. She'd kept a diary throughout high school. In it, she'd documented her growing discomfort with how her mother treated me. Specific incidents, direct quotes, her own confusion about why her mother seemed to hate someone who'd never done anything wrong. I thought I was going crazy, Whitney testified in the deposition. My mother told me one thing, but what I saw was different. She said she loved all her children equally, but she only ever cut down one of us. Veronica's lawyer tried to argue that a teenager's diary wasn't reliable. The judge disagreed, but the killing blow came from Dad. He'd kept everything. Every email Veronica sent him about keeping my mother's legacy hidden. Every conversation where she'd suggested I was less capable. Every budget cut she'd insisted on, explained in her own words as necessary because I wouldn't benefit from advanced programs anyway. I kept them, Dad testified, his voice hollow, because some part of me knew this was wrong. I told myself I was protecting my marriage, keeping peace in my home, but I was documenting abuse. I just wasn't brave enough to stop it. The lawsuit was dismissed with prejudice. The judge added a note suggesting Veronica seek therapy for what he called a pathological need to diminish others. Veronica appealed, lost again, appealed to a higher court, lost a third time. Each loss made the news. Each article mentioned the STEM program, my mother's legacy, and how a stepmother's insecurity had nearly destroyed a young girl's potential. The university invited me to speak at their annual fundraiser for the program, my mother's program. I stood at that podium, looking at the same stage where my mother had probably stood countless times, and told my story. Not the sanitized version, the real one. I talked about being 10 years old and having my intelligence questioned daily, about watching opportunities go to other children while being told I wasn't capable, about the specific kind of cruelty that comes from someone who should protect you but chooses to diminish you instead. I talked about finding that photograph, about learning my mother had built the very program that saved me. My mother never got to see me succeed, I said, but she created the path for me anyway. She built something that would outlive her, that would catch talented students who might otherwise fall through the cracks. Students like me. The audience was silent. Veronica tried to erase my mother's legacy, tried to convince me I was ordinary, unremarkable, not worth investing in. But brilliance isn't genetic. It's not about whose genes you carry. It's about who believes in you enough to give you a chance. I looked directly at the camera that was streaming the event. My mother believed in thousands of students she never met. Veronica believed in genetic superiority and keeping up appearances. One of them changed the world. The other just made herself irrelevant. The applause started slowly, then built until it shook the auditorium. Afterward, a woman approached me. She was older, with kind eyes and silver hair. I was your mother's lab partner, she said. I've been waiting 15 years to tell you this. She handed me a letter, sealed in protective plastic. Catherine gave this to me a week before she died, made me promise to give it to you when you were ready. She didn't know she'd die so soon, but she knew Veronica resented her, knew that if anything happened, your stepmother might try to erase her. My hands shook as I took it. She saw you, the woman said. Even at 4 years old, she saw how your mind worked, how you understood patterns and problems. She knew you'd be brilliant, and she knew the world would try to convince you otherwise. I waited until I was alone to open it. My dearest girl, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I hope I was wrong about the timing. I hope I'm just being paranoid, giving you this letter when you're already grown, and we can laugh about my dramatic tendencies over dinner. But if I'm right, if I'm truly gone, I need you to know something. You are not ordinary. You are not average. You are not less than anyone. The world will try to convince you otherwise. It will find 1,000 subtle ways to diminish your light. People will mistake your kindness for weakness, your thoughtfulness for slowness, your deliberate approach for inability. Do not believe them. I've watched you solve puzzles that stump children twice your age. I've seen you understand complex concepts the first time they're explained. I've witnessed the exact moment when something clicks in your mind. Your eyes get this focus, this intensity, like you can see through to the fundamental truth of things. You have my mind, sweetheart. And that mind is capable of extraordinary things. I've built something for you, for students like you, a program that finds brilliant minds in unexpected places, that gives chances to those who might otherwise be overlooked, that judges potential, not pedigree. If I'm gone, your father will be devastated. He'll make choices from a place of grief and fear. He might choose comfort over truth, peace over advocacy. Forgive him. He loves you, even when he's weak. Someone in his life might resent what you represent, might feel threatened by your potential, by my memory, by the simple fact that you exist as proof that brilliance comes in forms they don't recognize. Do not let them diminish you. Every time someone tells you that you're not capable, that you're not smart enough, that you're not worthy of investment, remember this letter. Remember that your mother saw your brilliance at 4 years old, that she built bridges for you before you even knew you'd need them. You are Catherine Rivera's daughter. You carry not just my genes, but my curiosity, my drive, my absolute refusal to accept limitations placed by small minds. Be brilliant, sweetheart. Be undeniably, unapologetically brilliant. And when you succeed, because you will, be kind. Be the person who builds bridges for others, who sees potential in unexpected places, who refuses to let another bright mind be convinced it's dim. I love you beyond measure, beyond time, beyond death itself. Mom, I read it 7 times before I could breathe properly. She'd known. Somehow she'd known exactly what would happen. And she'd built a program, written a letter, created a path for me through the darkness she predicted. I thought about Veronica, so convinced that genetics determined everything, so certain that her children's worth came from whose DNA they carried. My mother understood something deeper, that brilliance is cultivated, that potential needs nurturing, that greatness comes from opportunity meeting preparation. She'd given me the opportunity. Veronica had tried to steal it, but I'd prepared anyway, fought for it, claimed my birthright not through genetics, but through sheer refusal to accept the limitations others placed on me. I carefully refolded the letter and placed it in my wallet, where I'd carry it every day. Then I called Dad. I read it, I said. He was quiet for a moment. The letter? How did you? Her lab partner. She's been holding it for 15 years. What did it say? I thought about sharing it, about giving him absolution he desperately wanted. It said she loved me, that she knew I'd be brilliant, that she built something to catch me when I fell. Dad's breath hitched. Did she say anything about me? She said to forgive you, that you'd make choices from grief and fear. Do you? He asked quietly. Forgive me? I looked at my mother's photograph on my desk, at the acceptance letters, at the future she'd helped build even from beyond the grave. I'm working on it, I said. It's not there yet, but I'm working on it. That's more than I deserve. Probably, I agreed. But Mom seemed to think you deserved it anyway. I heard him cry, quiet sobs that he tried to muffle. I'll make it right, he said finally. However long it takes, whatever you need, I'll make it right. Start by being honest with Preston and Whitney, I said. Tell them what their mother did, what you allowed. They deserve to know the truth. They'll hate me, maybe, I said, but they'll respect you for finally being honest. That's more important than being liked. The twins took it hard. Whitney called me, crying so hard I could barely understand her. How can our mother be that person? She sobbed. How can she have done those things? People do terrible things when they're insecure, I said. When they tie their worth to being better than everyone around them. We used her achievements, Whitney said. Used our achievements. Like weapons against you. We're just as bad. You were kids being manipulated by a parent you trusted. That's different from her deliberately hurting a child in her care. Preston was quieter about it. He sent me a text. I spent my whole life thinking I was special because Mom said so. Now I don't know who I am. I called him. You're still you, I said. Smart, kind, good at robotics, bad at acknowledging your feelings. Your mother being wrong about me doesn't make you less talented, but she said we were better because of genetics. And that was bullshit, I interrupted. You're good at robotics because you practiced for thousands of hours. Whitney's good at orchestra because she dedicated herself to it. Your achievements are real. They just don't diminish mine. How are you not angrier at us? He asked. I was, I admitted, for a long time. But you two were victims too. Different victims, but victims nonetheless. She taught you that your worth came from being superior. That's its own kind of damage. I heard him swallow hard. What do we do now? We be family, I said. The real kind. Where we celebrate each other's successes instead of competing. Where we build each other up instead of tearing each other down. I don't know how to do that. Neither do I said. We'll figure it out together. The first semester of college, I took my mother's old lab space. It had been converted into a study room, but the university offered to restore it for me. I declined. Keep it as a study space, I said, for students in the program. My mother would want it used, not preserved like a museum, but I did accept their offer to name the program's annual achievement award after her, the Catherine Rivera Award for Academic Excellence. The first recipient was a quiet girl from a tiny rural school. She reminded me of myself, brilliant but overlooked, capable but underestimated. I gave her the award personal. Don't let anyone convince you you're ordinary, I told her. Don't let anyone's insecurity become your limitation. She nodded, tears in her eyes, clutching the plaque like it was made of gold. My mom says I'm lucky to be here, she whispered, that this program is for kids who need help. I froze. It was like looking in a mirror, seeing my own past reflected back. Your mom is wrong, I said firmly. This program is for brilliant minds. You're here because you earned it, because someone saw your potential and believed in it. Never forget that. She smiled through her tears. I thought about Veronica, wherever she was now, about how her poison could have killed my potential if I'd listened, about how many brilliant kids believe the lies told to them by insecure adults. I made a decision then. I'd spend my life doing what my mother did, finding those overlooked brilliant minds, building bridges for them, refusing to let another child be convinced they're ordinary when they're extraordinary. Veronica sued for access to Preston and Whitney once they turned 18. She claimed parental alienation, that Dad and I had poisoned them against her. The twins were asked to testify. Whitney stood in that courtroom and said, "My mother taught me that my worth came from being better than other people. That's not love, that's abuse. I choose not to have that in my life." Preston was more direct. She spent 15 years tearing someone down to make herself feel superior. I don't want a relationship with someone capable of that. The judge didn't even pretend to be sympathetic to Veronica. Your children are adults, he said. They've made their choice. This court will not force a relationship where none is wanted. Veronica left the courtroom screaming about ungrateful children and lies. I watched her go, feeling nothing. Not satisfaction, not vindication, just nothing. She'd made herself irrelevant. Her children didn't want her. Her reputation was destroyed. Her marriage was over. She'd gotten exactly what she'd tried to give me: isolation, irrelevance, erasure. But unlike her attempt to diminish me, her consequences were earned. I graduated summa cum laude 3 years later. My thesis on computational biology won national recognition. I'd built on my mother's work, taking her theories and pushing them further. Dad came to my graduation. So did Preston and Whitney. Dad had aged in those 3 years, the weight of his choices evident in every line on his face. But he'd changed too. He volunteered with an organization that helped children in difficult family situations. He spoke openly about his failures, about choosing comfort over courage. I can't undo what I did, he told audiences, but I can make sure other fathers don't make my mistakes, that they choose their children, especially when it's hard. Whitney had switched her major to social work. She wanted to help kids like we'd been, trapped in toxic family dynamics, convinced they were the problem. Preston had started a nonprofit providing STEM education to underserved communities. He named it Rivera's Reach. Your mom reached through time to save you, he explained. We're reaching across barriers to save kids who might otherwise be missed. We'd all found ways to turn our damage into purpose. At my graduation dinner, Dad handed me another envelope. This was in your mother's things, he said. I found it when I was finally going through her office. I've been holding it, waiting for the right moment. Inside was a deed to a small house near the university. Your mother bought it a month before she died, Dad said. She told me it was an investment, but I think she meant it for you, for when you were ready to build your own life. The house was perfect. A small craftsman with a laboratory set up in the basement, clearly intended for a scientist who wanted to work from home. I moved in immediately. On the wall above the basement lab, I hung my mother's photograph, not the official one from the university, but a candid shot I'd found in Dad's things. She was laughing, covered in safety goggles pushed up on her head, holding a beaker like it was a trophy. She looked happy, brilliant, alive. I started every research session by looking at that photo. Be brilliant, sweetheart. Be undeniably, unapologetically brilliant. I was trying, Mom. I was really trying. 5 years after my graduation, I published a breakthrough paper. It built on my mother's work and solved a problem that had plagued computational biology for decades. The paper made international news. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? You've become everything I said you couldn't be. Veronica. I should have hung up, should have blocked the number and moved on, but curiosity won out. And? I asked. And nothing. I just wanted you to know that I see it. I see what you've accomplished, what you've become. Why are you calling me, Veronica? Silence. Then, I wanted to apologize. For everything. I laughed. Actually laughed. You want forgiveness? I want you to know I was wrong. About you, about your mother, about everything. I let my insecurities destroy my family. I lost my children, my marriage, my reputation. I've spent 5 years in therapy trying to understand why I did what I did. And? I asked. What did you learn? That I was terrified. Your mother was everything I wanted to be. Brilliant, respected, loved. When she died and I married your father, I thought I could replace her. But you existed, living proof that she was real, that she mattered, that she couldn't be erased. Every time you showed intelligence, it reminded everyone that I was the second choice, the replacement. So you tried to destroy me. Yes, her voice broke. And I'm sorry. I know that's not enough. I know it doesn't undo anything, but I need you to hear it. I was wrong. You were never ordinary. You were extraordinary, and I tried to convince everyone otherwise because I couldn't handle it. I looked at my mother's photo. I don't forgive you, I said. I understand. But I also don't think about you anymore. You're not my villain. You're not my motivation. You're not anything to me. You're just someone who tried to hurt me and failed. That's fair. My mother built something that outlived her, I continued. Something that mattered. Something that changed lives. You built nothing but misery and lost everything because of it. That's your legacy. That's your consequence. You don't get my forgiveness on top of that. I hung up, and I never heard from her again. Preston called an hour later. Mom tried to call me too, he said. Looking for absolution, I guess. Did you give it to her? No. Did you? No. Good, he said. Some things can't be forgiven. Some damage is too deep. Yeah, but I've been thinking, Preston continued, about the kids we're helping through the nonprofit, about how many of them have Veronicas in their lives, people telling them they're not good enough, not smart enough, not worth investing in. Where are you going with this? I want to expand. Create a mentorship program that pairs kids from difficult family situations with professionals in their fields of interest. Get them away from the voices telling them they're ordinary and surround them with people who see their potential. That's ambitious. I learned from the best, he said. Your mom built a program that saved you. You've built on her legacy. I want to do the same. I'll help, I said. Whatever you need. I was hoping you'd say that. The mentorship program launched the following year. We called it Brilliant Minds, Unexpected Places, a line from my mother's founding charter. The first year, we served 50 students. The second year, 200. By year 5, we'd expanded to 10 states. Every student received the same message at their orientation, printed on a card they could keep. You are not ordinary. You are not average. You are not less than anyone. The world will try to convince you otherwise. Do not believe them. My mother's words, passed to me, passed to thousands. Her legacy wasn't just in patents and papers. It was in every kid who refused to accept the limitations placed on them. Every brilliant mind that might have been overlooked but instead found a bridge. I thought about Veronica sometimes. Wondered if she saw the articles about the program, if she understood what she could have been part of if she'd chosen differently. But mostly, I didn't think about her at all. I was too busy being brilliant. Unapologetically, undeniably brilliant. Just like my mother knew I'd be. The Catherine Rivera Award recipient that year was a 15-year-old boy from foster care. His caseworker had entered him in the program, seeing something in him that the system had missed. I gave him his award and saw myself reflected back. That same hunger for knowledge, that same fear of hoping too much, that same desperate need to prove he belonged. You belong here, I told him. Not because someone gave you permission, because you earned it. Remember that. He clutched the award, tears streaming down his face. My foster mom says I should be grateful for opportunities like this, he whispered. That kids like me don't usually get chances. I knelt down to his level. Listen to me very carefully. You're not here because of charity. You're not here because someone felt sorry for you. You're here because you're brilliant. Because when they tested thousands of students, you were one of the best. That's not luck. That's not chance. That's you. But she says, she's wrong, I interrupted. Just like someone was wrong about me once. Just like someone was probably wrong about your caseworker, and wrong about half the people in this room. Don't let someone else's limited vision become your truth. He nodded, understanding blooming in his eyes. I thought about my mother again. About how she'd seen me at 4 and known, how she'd built bridges before I knew I'd need them. I was building bridges now too, for kids like this boy. For every brilliant mind that someone had tried to convince was ordinary. One more thing, I said. 10 years from now, when you're accepting awards and publishing papers and changing the world, remember this moment. Remember what it felt like to be underestimated. And build bridges for the next kid. He smiled through his tears. I will. And I believed him. Because brilliance recognizes brilliance, even when the world refuses to see it. My mother had seen it in me. I saw it in him, and he'd see it in someone else. That was the real legacy. Not the awards, or the patents, or the papers. It was the refusal to let another brilliant mind be extinguished by someone else's insecurity. It was the absolute determination to build bridges for those who came after. It was the understanding that genius appears in unexpected places, if we're willing to look. My mother had looked and found me. I was looking now, finding others. And they would look, finding the next generation. Veronica had tried to end my mother's legacy. Instead, she'd only made it stronger. Because every time someone tried to diminish me and failed, I became more determined to lift others up. Every time someone questioned my belonging, I made sure 10 other kids knew they belonged. Every time someone suggested I was ordinary, I proved not just that I was extraordinary, but that extraordinary was everywhere, waiting to be acknowledged. I stood at my mother's grave on the anniversary of her death, laying fresh flowers by the headstone. I did it, Mom, I whispered. I became everything you knew I could be, and I'm helping others do the same. The wind picked up, rustling through the trees. I like to think it was her, proud and pleased, watching her legacy grow beyond anything she could have imagined. Not just in me, but in thousands of students who refused to be ordinary. In a foster kid who'd just learned he was brilliant. In twins who'd learned that true worth isn't about being better than others. In a father who'd finally learned to choose courage over comfort. In a program that found hidden genius and gave it wings. Thank you, I said to the headstone, for seeing me, for building bridges, for refusing to let the world overlook brilliant minds. I placed my hand on the cool marble. I promise I'll keep building, keep looking, keep finding the extraordinary in unexpected places. Just like you taught me. The sun broke through the clouds, warm on my face. I smiled. My mother's work wasn't finished. It would never be finished, because brilliance keeps appearing in unexpected places, and now there were thousands of us looking for it, building bridges, refusing to let another light be dimmed, being undeniably, unapologetically brilliant, just like she knew we could be.